In this video, I will show you the boneless method to skin and mount a turkey wing for the warbird. This method is preferred if the wing has broken bones, but it can be used for any wing. On this second wing, to make it easier, I'm going to pluck the small feathers off. These small feathers could be removed anyway. They just get in the way of the mounting process on the screws. So ordinarily, there's your wing web right through here. Ordinarily, I would make my cut somewhere in this vicinity on that dotted line. I like to rub a little bit in on this skin area. This wing has two broken wing bones. The radial and ulna are broken. So we're going to eliminate all these bones right up to the wrist joint. For this wing, I would use the alternate mounting technique that doesn't use any of the bones. Use your fingers as much as possible to separate the skin from the meat. Now I'm just separating the meat from the top of the secondary quills. Now we'll separate the secondary quills from the radial and ulnar bone. There's where the bones are broken off. So we're not going to use any of these bones. We'll eliminate those bones completely by cutting through the joint area, like that. All we have to do is do a little fleshing on the wire wheel. I'm going to do a little fleshing on the bird's secondary wings with the wire wheel. And now that we have our wing washed and dried, ready to mount this wing with my alternate mounting technique. Need to go back through and re-preserve. Rub in preservative, borax. I do like the best made preservative. Get it into all the little nooks and crannies inside the wing. The next step is to inject the wrist area and thumb with any good wing or foot preservative. This is the wrist area that we're going to inject. I have my own. I use a saturated solution of borax, 50-50 mix with that solution with formalin. Then I add about a teaspoonful of zinc sulfate to accelerate the drying, and a little red dye so I can see exactly where the preservative is under the skin. This will not come out through the feathers as long as there's no hole. A little massage. Don't forget to inject the thumb area. There's a little bit of flesh in there. Now you can see the pink area. I know that I've got that preservative distributed throughout that small meaty area inside the wing. I also like to treat this little feather butt with some of the preservative using about a 12-inch piece of 10 gauge wire. It's got to be a little flexible so you can bend it, sharpen it on one end, and this will be inserted under the ligaments at the wrist area about here, and we'll go into this joint, this bone, stop at this bone joint about there. Poke that wire in there. Just be sure not to poke it through the skin. You can feel it with your thumb. Run it up to this joint right here and stop right there. Make a loop just inside of where this secondaries are. So this loop is going to be embedded in the mache, and that will hold this wing solid. The idea of the mounted wing is to look like the headdress. The war bonnets never stuck up like this. The war bonnets were more of it at an angle. You're going to bend that wire so that the primaries lay down a little bit, and then the secondaries should look more like the war bonnet. You're going to temporarily position it with the wrist bones just inside, just down inside from the top of the forehead of the face. And when the wing is dried, it should look something like this. That's our goal. Now to mount the wing. Next thing that I will do is place a nice thick layer of silicone on these secondary quill roots all the way down to the end of this wing. I use silicone. I have used power grab and also a slow set Bondo. Can be used on top of these quills. However, the Bondo is pretty messy, and if it kicks off before you're ready, you have quite a mess. So today we're going to use the silicone. Start right up at the top of the wrist area. Try to keep the feathers out of it. And I'll use a little denatured alcohol just to flatten down the silicone, kind of like this. The denatured alcohol is also a preservative. Now we're ready to mix up the paper mache. Today I'm using Antler Set, which is a fairly fast setting mache. I like to use a little Odo band, which is a disinfectant, mildew stat, virucide sanitizer, about a capful of that in there. And the reason I use this, just in case you're in a moist climate where the mache will not dry out fast enough. And if that happens, you can get a little mold started inside. So the Odo band will help prevent that, as well as opening up the skin area, which I'll show you in a minute. What we're going to do is we're going to stuff this wing area full of mache. Actually, we're going to overstuff it. The reason why will be very apparent in just a minute. Once the mache is inside, we're going to staple shut the incision area. With that area stapled shut, now we take our wing and we actually mold this mache. Now what I like to do is I like to clamp the wrist area to the forehead, and I like to pull the secondaries down and clamp those to the bottom of the cheek area. This is how we mold it. So I use a board, a flat pointer board, to press that mache down into a flattened area. It's taking the shape of the face, the curvature of that patented wing pocket. I use a board like this to flatten it, but also act as a pointer, so that my feathers are going to be, I can see that they will miss the wall once the face is mounted. The mache is set. There'll be plenty of adjustment time when you card the wing to rearrange these feathers, these primaries and secondaries. In order to speed up the drying, this is optional, but sometimes I will just cut a slice through the skin to the mache, and this will allow moisture to come back out. When it's completely dry, this can be glued shut. Now we're going to flip the wing over and card it. Get your printing all done before you do your final carding. This will be how the final look should be. The primaries are still a little flexible, so you can flip them up a little bit if you like to. I use a lot of clamps like these for carding. I use a little painter's tape to make sure they stay in place. And the carding is done. Make sure the wing is completely dry before you mount it, just like in any other bird mounting. So here we have the carded completed wing and ready to put up for drying. This concludes the skinning and mounting of the turkey wing for a warbird mount, part 1 of a 3-part series. You should check out my next video, painting the warbird face, part 2.